S4E3, joined by Frank, and Jake will be with us shortly. No Lunas today, but we have just finished week 3 of the NFL regular season. I was at the Patriots game this weekend. It was
The Jets
not
game.
great. I guess the Jets game. Yeah, it was fun as a Patriots fan just because of the game, but I mean, as far as the actual quality of play, not great. Jets fans will obviously be clamoring for not Zach Wilson as their quarterback, but that's not who you guys care about or what you tuned in for. So let's get into the actual players. But actually, kind of similar to what the Jets situation is, although they're not 0-3, they're looking at a meek future right now. And what we want to lead off with is, what are you doing if you start off 0-3 in your dynasty leagues? Because I'm sure a lot of you thought you had playoff aspirations. Maybe you had Nick Chubb get injured, other kind of key players get injured, or you have players that just aren't playing well that you expected to. Maybe unlucky with your fantasy matchups. What do you do if you start 0-3? Frank, this kind of seems like something you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I saw Bean Counter, DF Bean Counter on X or Twitter, pretty popular Dynasty fantasy football follow on there. And he was posting a study that was saying that if you start 0-3, that you have a 16% chance of making the playoffs, and that it's kind of time to cash out now on your veteran players before it's too late. You're 0-3, the chances are slim. But honestly, I kind of disagree with that. Outside of you getting just clearly good offers, right? I think the only position that's happening for right now is running back. Yes, if you're getting really good offers for your running backs, you're getting good, either like very good young assets or good draft picks, then yeah, I would cash out. But I do think this is too early to just insta hit the sell button and start, not necessarily accepting panic offers, but just going crazy and making 12 trades this week to tank your max points for and everything. It's not impossible to make the playoffs after an 0-3 start. I've done it a bunch of times in our dynasty league and in other dynasty leagues, and I think that 16%, like you're wrapping in too many teams that had no chance to begin with, which I think is bogging down a contender's true chance. They just started 0-3 for making the playoffs compared to grouping in every 0-3 team in existence. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know if you guys disagree, but I would not be looking to insta sell everything.
So I definitely agree with that. I think you have to, the most important thing in any dynasty league is just realize where you're at with your team, right? Are you an aging team that's, just over the hill? Then I might sell. If you're a team that is, coming on the come up, you're obviously not going to sell off those veteran pieces because you're probably a few pieces away. Maybe you actually go out and add a piece here at 0-3 and say, okay, I'm 0-3. I need to shake it up a little bit. Let's bring in some help and then kickstart, a potential playoff run. I think that's also, a good way to go about it, depending on where you're at. But if you are one of these over the hill teams where you just know it and you're like, yeah, my team used to be good, but now we're aging out, it's time to start selling off those pieces. And I think 0-3 is just an indication of that. So in certain cases, I agree with you. In others, I just think you got to be aware of where your team is at. And if it's past its prime, it might be time to shake it up a little bit.
So in terms of a shake-up move, what do you think about going for Jonathan Taylor right now?
It's tough. It's really tough. I think it's probably a good move because it's one of these guys that the guy who has him is most likely a contender, and he's going to want something, especially with the news today that Jonathan Taylor still does not want to play for the Colts, doesn't have any intentions of playing for the Colts, blah, 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 blah. This doesn't seem like it's ending after this, week 4, he can come off the PUP list thing. With that being said, I think his price is a little down. I think on Keep Trade Cut, he's down to like running back 6. What's he down to?
But not only that, if he's on a heavily contending team and you have a running back that's putting up points right now, you can probably get a favorable deal on Jonathan Taylor.
I absolutely. I mean, I think it's still going to cost you a first round pick plus, but it's not that price that you're used to for a Jonathan Taylor style back. I also think you could say, hey, I have Mostert on my team, and if you're a contending team, I'll give you Mostert. I'll take Jonathan Taylor, um, and we can work out the filler pieces in between there. And when we both come away happy, where the contender now doesn't have a headache of Jonathan Taylor, cashed out a little bit, and gets a replaceable back.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to take a lot, though. Even like a contender team. Um, Look, I just think if I could just backtrack real quick, just to the contending team, because I did find something interesting about starting off 0-3 and whatnot, and I feel like we don't know yet what players are like through 3 weeks. I mean, we have an idea of what's going on, but I looked back in last year. I'm looking at Fantasy Pros, and it's 2022 stats week 1 through 3, who the leaders are. And at quarterback, it's kind of what you'd expect. I mean, it is quarterbacks, so they're definitely much more stable. But in the top 5, we have Carson Wentz. And then in the top 15, we also have Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. And Joe Flacco is right there at 16 too. So, you might be losing to teams that really aren't going to be sticking around for the long run. And running backs definitely where that's most prevalent, I would say, because the top 15 running backs were 3 was James Robinson, 4 Cordero Patterson, 5 Jamal Williams, 6 Khalil Herbert, 7 was DeAndre Swift, okay, 8 was CEH, 13 Antonio Gibson, 14 Kareem Hunt, 15 Damian Harris. Like, there's a lot of running backs, wide receivers, same kind of thing. We have like Devon Duvernay's in the top 10 there. Tight ends, you got Gerald Everett, Tyler Conklin, Will Disley are all in the top 10. We're only through 3 weeks, people. It's definitely not time to throw in the towel. I do agree, if you could get Jonathan Taylor, go ahead and get him. I just think while his price is definitely deflated from what it should be, even in reality, like regardless of the managers holding for so long and not wanting to sell for anything, I still think his price is deflated because he does belong in that top 3 running back conversation, I would say. I still don't think you're going to be getting that great of a deal, though. I think it's going to be first plus, definitely. I think it's going to be, if you're offering that kind of Raheem Mostert or Jerome Ford kind of player, you're still going to have to put a lot on top of it. If you're offering someone like,
What about
I don't know,
a James Cook?
That's kind of who I was trying to come up with, like a James Cook or Brian Robinson.
Because that whoa.
We're under attack here. Hold on, let me fix this.
Not like that take. God damn.
No, I don't know what happened here.
But yeah, that's more along the lines of what I was thinking, is that those tear downs into a James Cook that were never possible in the offseason when we knew Jonathan Taylor probably, had that chance of holding out, now seem pretty darn possible, both because James Cook has been playing well and because, once again, if you're a heavy contender, Jonathan Taylor is not giving you points, and that news report that came out is not favorable for him playing. You're banking on a trade right now for a running back market that is at the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really tough to move Jonathan Taylor. Moving any running back, honestly, is really tough in Dynasty, just because especially right now, just that we have the very top tier, right? You got the Bijans, the CMCs, and then there's not a whole lot of safe guys in between there and your group of RB2s, let's say, right? So you guys got guys like, Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a rookie. You got Breece Hall, who's in a crowded backfield coming off an ACL. And you got Kenneth Walker, who's looked very good through 2 weeks. But he's in that backfield with Charbonnet, who you figure the Seahawks will get more involved as the season goes on. Tony Pollard is 26, and the Cowboys definitely put up a dud last week. But he might be the most stable back in that next tier, and that's hard for me to say as a guy that doesn't love Tony Pollard and really thinks he's just an average back in a good offense. But different take for a different day. So
I don't know.
all running.
I kind of like that tier of running backs right now. I think it's the next tier down for me when you get into. I mean, we're almost getting into a different segment now. You know what? I'm gonna promote this segment. Here we go, because we're talking about it. We're talking about it already. Here we go. Segment has been promoted to middle of the news. Let's play a game. It's called, and JT, whenever you get back, let's play a game. Which running backs would you trade a 2024 first for?
Not many.
Now,
I mean,
this is assumed you are a contender right now. Let's say you're 2-1. You're looking for a running back. Let's say maybe you lost Nick Chubb or something. I don't know. And you're looking around the league, and I offer you James Cook. You're that contending team. Is that getting it done? Are you putting the 2024 contender first on the line for James Cook?
No.
No, just a resounding no.
No. I like James Cook. I think he's a talented guy, to use Lunas's favorite word. But the problem is, I just think he's a product of the offense. I think we've seen all these running backs that go to Buffalo kind of somewhat produce. I think he's the best one we've seen since Buffalo's been this good. But at the same time, I just think at the end of the day, he's going to be limited because this offense is going to throw the ball 50 times a game. And that's just what they're going to do, and that's because they have Josh Allen, and that gives them the best chance to win. So, with that being said, I think he's capped. I think he's a fine RB2? Yeah, fine. But I'm not going to give up that 24 first that could be, I don't know, Trevion Henderson. Like, that's just not a pick I'm going to give up for James Cook.
I agree. I'm not giving up the 24 first for James Cook. Let's go Brian Robinson.
No. The same thing. He's a running back too, and he's just not a guy that I'm willing to give up a potential Trevion Henderson, any of those other guys in the back half of the first round in this upcoming draft. It's just not going to happen.
I think I also agree, but I don't know. I do agree, though. I do agree. I'm not giving it up. Devon Achane, coming off the 200-yard game or whatever.
Oh, I would like to see another game, but I know that might change the price, is the issue.
Yeah, I would trade him for the first. I wouldn't trade a first for him. I would trade.
No, that's what we're doing. A trade a first for these players. What about James Cook or Brian Robinson? No on both of them?
No. But I definitely would trade a first. I'd trade them both for first.
I would think about Achane.
I would think about Achane as well.
I think I might do it just because like the hype is so crazy. I think I might be able to just flip him in another week. DeAndre Swift.
No.
At this point, I'd say no.
I'm also going to go no.
The problem I'll have with Achane going back to him is that I feel like people are just disregarding that Raheem Mostert also went crazy.
Had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. It wasn't just an Achane. It was Denver Broncos defense is just really horrific. I mean, Achane was good. Don't get me wrong, but we had literally we had another running back on that team also run for 4 touchdowns, 100 yards. Actually 140 yards between rushing and receiving on them. I don't know. That's just an anomaly right now until I see it again. I'm not going out and just throwing a first.
But the only issue I have is that I think Achane showed what I saw in college in this game. This wasn't a thing that I thought was very unexpected. I saw what I saw in college, and I think it's translating very well into this Dolphins offense. We forgot that he was missed week 1 with an injury. Last week was his first real week playing, and now in his second week playing, he really went off for 50 points. I understand this defense in this game was an anomaly, and I agree with that. But I just think Achane's a very talented player. He was going in the late first in some cases in rookie drafts this past offseason. So I don't think it's an absolute ridiculous move to go trade for Achane with that first. However, I don't think I would. I don't think it's a bet. Like if you truly trust Achane and you liked him as a prospect, go do it. I think it's all the credit in the world to you. I'm just gonna hold until I know for sure. And if that means the price goes up, the price goes up, and I just pay it.
I don't know. I disagree. I want to get in now to the ride because, I mean, yes, Raheem Mostert also went off, but I like Raheem Mostert as well. I mean, you talk about a guy. I think he would have been much better as a running back if he didn't have all those injuries, right? I think that dude is legitimately one of the most underrated backs in football. But at the same time, I mean, that's just a box to me, the Achane check that I'm now like, because like you said earlier, he was already kind of late first. I valued him as late first, and now he has. I get a 200-yard game out of him. I understand the Broncos look like shit, but 200-yard game though, I mean, how many times are you saying that about other people when they go off for 200 yards? I mean,
Dameon Pierce.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that there. But I like Achane.
Jonas Gray one time had 4 touchdowns. I like Achane, but I like first, and I think we're gonna have quality running backs coming out next year. So, and the year after. I don't know what first. We're talking 2024 first.
All right. What about Javonte Williams?
No, I don't think you have to.
I don't think you have to either. I think you can get him for 2 seconds.
Same with Brian Robinson. I don't think you have to trade a first for Brian Robinson. James Cook might be in that realm right now of players that you'd have to trade a first for. And Achane, I feel like at this point you would also have to trade a first for. But
Achane is currently running back 11 on Keep Trade Cut.
Yeah, but that's relative though, because anyone that's not in like the top 8 is basically it's who likes who, and it's a complete crapshoot.
Oh, I don't disagree.
It's completely gone up and down everyone over the past couple of weeks.
All right, let me know if you have any other running backs that you're
Ramondre.
thinking. Then we have.
I mean, I also had Kyren Williams on there, but you guys are just gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna say no to Kyren.
What about Ramondre though?
Kyren's had crazy usage, but I'm not paying the first. Ramondre also no. I like Ramondre a lot. Again, I don't think I have to give up the first for him, but if I did, I'm not doing it.
I don't know. I might give up the first for Ramondre. I think he's gonna have a major bounce back.
Oh, I think he'll be very good for this offense. But in terms of dynasty value and everything, I'd rather spend my first elsewhere.
Okay, what's going on, Reese? How
there's a lot of chat going on. So first,
long term, are you trading high on George Pickens? What's he worth in Dynasty Superflex? More than a late 24 first? Thanks.
That's probably spot on.
I think a single first is what he's about at.
I would like to re-roll because I think he's a good receiver. But I think like you re-roll into that first, like you have the chance of getting a great receiver. Like probably not. Assuming it's a late first, like you're definitely not getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and everything. But there's a lot of good receivers coming out next year, and you have the chance to hit on a very good one.
I don't think I would trade. It does depend on the first quality a little bit, right? It's a little contextual. But if it's just a team that looks like a contender, I'm not taking a late 24 first for him. I'd rather keep George Pickens. If you get a 1 and a 2, then I think I'm really thinking about it. If you're a team that's just looking to acquire value. And I don't think that's the most ridiculous trade. If he has another good week or two, because he has been playing very well.
Yeah, I am cautious with Deontay out, who tends to be a target hog.
Right, but I don't think it's unimaginable if George Pickens, let's say, has another touchdown this week and, 80 yards, let's say, that someone would want to potentially pay a first and a second for him as a contender.
Sure, but who are the Steelers playing this week? Let me see.
I have no idea.
The Texans, I believe?
It is the Texans, and then Baltimore, and then bye.
Ooh.
I don't know. I'm still not willing to put the trust in Kenny Pickett. Chat's also asking, are we starting DJ Moore versus the Broncos?
Yeah.
No.
It's contextual on who you're starting him over. I would feel pretty good starting him this week.
I don't want to start anyone that plays for the Chicago Bears.
Oh, against these Broncos, I'm starting both.
I don't care.
I would start Roschon, I would start Khalil Herbert, and I'd start DJ Moore. And obviously,
DJ Moore is like a low-end wide receiver too, and Justin Fields is like a mid quarterback, like a high-end QB2, very low-end QB1 right now. If they are playing, that's what it is.
I love this guy. Or girl, pretty sure guy. John Rack saying grass is green, water is wet, death taxes, and Green Bay Packers have a franchise quarterback.
Are they going to get Christian Watson back though? My boy needs to play.
I don't know. Light the wick. That's all I'm saying.
Apparently it's been true. Apparently it's been leaking that what is it? The Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are both supposed to be starting on Thursday against the Lions.
We like that.
Yeah, I need
allegedly
Aaron Jones back real bad.
Yeah, I have him in one of the 3rd and 20 leagues, and I've kind of been waiting for him. As far as Jordan Love's considered, I hate to throw cold water on it, but I'm trying to pull up the PFF quarterback rankings. Jordan Love does not have that great of a positional grade yet.
Listen,
I think he's looked pretty good though, dude.
He's looked pretty good. That's all. That's like he passed the eye test.
The thing that PFF is going with here though is, and I don't have PFF whatever premium, but I read it online. He's been saved by a lot of long yak plays, like his receivers saving him and helping him out. Whereas people like Trevor Lawrence, who haven't looked as good, like on film or whatever, are ranked decently higher than Jordan Love. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm buying into the Jordan Love hype after 3 weeks so far. Like I just said, Carson Wentz was a top 5 fantasy quarterback through 3 weeks last year.
I'm not buying into the hype from a dynasty perspective, but you got to admit he's looked pretty good.
He's looked okay. Like he's looked solid. I would say.
I just think that this is a testament to LaFleur for having such a young offense being, like, executing at a pretty high level right now.
Well, he also did the analytical thing though, and he went for 2 down 14, and they won by 1. So
Stonks.
I like the LaFleur play too. But yeah,
let's get into the next segment though. So unfortunately, Mike Williams with an ACL tear. Big blow to some teams because he was actually playing very well to start off this year.
All the Chargers were.
Yeah, that offense was kind of just tearing it up. So
defense was not.
I mean, first question before we get into Quentin Johnston is, what's up with Josh Palmer? Is he relevant now? Is he startable?
Yeah. I think
he's a good flex if you're in a deeper league.
He's a flex in a deeper league, and then he's a wide receiver 3 in an emergency. I mean, he did play more than Quentin Johnston after Mike Williams went down, which is, I think, a positive sign if you are the Josh Palmer roster. But overall, I mean, I think they went out and drafted Quentin Johnston for a reason. I'm not even a Quentin Johnston guy like JT. I think he's actually just a big, fast guy, and that's really it. But here we are. So I think that he probably fills that Mike Williams role more than Josh Palmer, and I think realistically both will be involved, and neither will be that playable is really the outcome here. But yeah, both will be flex plays in my opinion for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I'm not going out and buying Josh Palmer to put him in my lineup. I feel like you could just get that cheaper, similar. Like I feel like Adam Thielen, for example, you're going to get like the same kind of production, except Adam Thielen's just super cheap compared to Josh Palmer's probably.
They're probably
the same thirds.
I think.
I don't know. You think Adam Thielen's still a third? Yeah. I feel like you were trying to trade him in our league and you couldn't for a third.
Well, yeah, but now he just put up like 145 yards and a touchdown. last week.
Yeah, but
If
still,
there's any time to get a
it's
third for him.
30-something-year-old Adam Thielen. I don't know.
It actually says Adam Thielen is 450 keep trade cut points below Josh Palmer, wide receiver 77 versus wide receiver 63.
They're the same.
They're the same.
Okay,
I agree.
And I think at least Josh Palmer has multiple year upside. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I'm not the biggest Josh Palmer guy, but when he's had opportunities to play, he has played pretty well. I do think that this is an intriguing opportunity for him. Yes, I agree that Quentin Johnston is probably over the course of the season going to carve out a higher role, but that is kind of what's priced in. That is the consensus take. And that is not guaranteed to happen. The actual chances of that happening are probably a coin flip, maybe a little bit slightly better odds in Quentin Johnston's favor, maybe like 54% instead of a true coin flip. But
I feel
if you look at first round pick wide receivers, if we just bucket it that way around his draft range, I mean, it's basically a 50-50 chance whether they panned out or not.
I just think my issue with Josh Palmer is I don't think he's a long year, like a long-term play, right? Because if you take him off Los Angeles, one of the highest passing attack, especially now with Kellen Moore, teams in the league, and you plop him anywhere else, I don't know what Josh Palmer's doing. I don't think you get a much better situation than where he currently is. And I think at the end of the day, even in this like really good situation where he could potentially be the number 2 wide receiver, I don't think you're getting much more than 10 points per game, where he's going to be in a couple years just a roster clogger. I don't think Josh Palmer is anything special. Quentin Johnston, I also don't know if he is anything special, but I would much rather bet on the Quentin Johnston case. I think with a first round pick that you invested in him, with a coach who's on the hot seat like Brandon Staley and a team that's trying to win, I think you're going to go and turn to your number one, who you eventually hope to be your number 1 guy in Quentin Johnston. Now, whether or not he's good, time will tell, but I feel like at this avenue, crossing, whatever you want, intersection, I think now is where you got to go with Quentin Johnston. And I think Josh Palmer is going to be stuck in the same Josh Palmer role. Okay, nothing else to add there?
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm not gung-ho for Josh Palmer for a third, but I'm definitely thinking about it. I would heavily think about trading a third for Josh Palmer.
I would just, I don't know. I would rather trade it for like a young running back who doesn't, like Sean Tucker, for example. You could probably get Sean Tucker for a third, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably even less than a third, but I'd rather go in that route because then you have way more boom bust potential. Like that could be worth a lot more if you're looking to spend a third on a player and invest in.
Yeah,
but it could also be but like I think it depends, because that's, if you're a contender and you need a receiver right now, Josh Palmer. If you're a
contender and you need Josh Palmer, you're not a contender. You can get those kind of points like anywhere. I can go on the waiver wire in most leagues and pick up someone who's going to give me like 6 points per game. So if Josh Palmer is giving me 10 points per game,
I don't understand. Like, I mean, Josh Palmer,
it's 4 points.
Around like, what did he have last year? What did he average? I mean, he was a decent receiver last year.
Joshua Palmer.
I have him.
I'm not usually like a big situation guy, but the fact that like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen,
he had 133 points in 16 games.
That's decently solid.
But it's not much higher. It's
a game.
133 over 16.
How many points a game is that? Give me some math.
It's like 8, I would guess.
8.
He was wide receiver 37. He was just outside of wide receiver 3
points per game. Yeah, but you could get 8.3 points per game.
No, you can't.
Cheap. Yes, you can.
JT, do you know who's on the waiver wire? The number 1 free agent wide receiver is nobody.
But that's cheap points. That's like near like bottom level. Like, you know how MLB has the Mendoza line? Like 8 points is like pretty close to that Mendoza line of like whether or not you're startable.
That is true. Yeah, 8 points is a little rough.
Yeah, but like you
If I'm
gotta
getting,
figure in most of his games he's playing as the wide behind Mike Williams and behind Keenan Allen. That's
I
not
mean, didn't both of them deal with injuries last year?
Right, and that's
at
but
separate times though.
no, they definitely did, and that's why he had produced last year a good amount. I agree with that, but I don't know how many games they were both healthy for. One of them, like it's a little bit misconstrued, because I don't have that in front of me. But
Keenan Allen played 10 games last year, so
Mike
at least
Williams.
8 of them. Or 7 of them, sorry. And Mike Williams played in 13 of them. I don't have the overlap though of when he would be considered the wide receiver 1 or not.
yeah,
But, I mean,
okay, you may have convinced me there. That's bait.
Thank you. But is this our next segment here, the flex wide receiver replacement buys?
Yeah, we can get into other ones. I mean, because I disagree with your argument that if you're buying Josh Palmer, you weren't a contender to begin with, because I think like picking up a guy for a third who can give you flex relevant production, let's say Jacoby Myers type production last year, 12 points a game. That's massive for a third round pick. Yeah, you'd like to get more, but it's always fucking annoying to do that. Making a move like that and then keeping your seconds and your firsts as a contender is pretty nice. That's pretty solid when you do that. So what are kind of players that you can do that with? If we're not going to do that with Josh Palmer, what are some, you mentioned Sean Tucker. Are you just going to go all in on looking for handcuffy running backs? I think Rico Dowdle might be one. I traded for him in our home league just to handcuff Tony Pollard, but he's another player that if Tony Pollard gets hurt might be extremely relevant. Is that the strat?
I'm definitely more apt to doing something like that than trading for the Josh Palmers, I don't know, Jonathan Mingos, just a random third wide receivers on teams where, like, sure, Dowdle actually I feel like is a decent play just because Tony Pollard hasn't done it for a full season. He is coming off that injury and he's been used at a very high rate already. I think that is a direction I'd want to go in. Players that I think could see a value bump in the future would be someone like Leonard Fournette, who is not on a team currently. Kareem Hunt, I think, is pretty washed, but he actually already had a decent snap share with the Browns, I believe, if I pull it up, despite not being with them all training camp or anything. And Jerome Ford presumably being the guy, yeah, he already had 20% snap share, and that's only going to go up as the season goes on. So Kareem Hunt's kind of that cheap guy. Trying to think of who else. I don't really like him, but I think Tyjae Spears wouldn't be a bad bet in terms of Derrick Henry's crossed that 1,800 carry threshold. He is kind of built different, I would say, but he does. You know, everyone at some point is going to hit that wear and tear, and Tyjae has already been out snapping him.
What would you value Tyjae at? Because I feel like he's more of a second round kind of guy. I have Tyjae in a handful of leagues.
He probably is. I would assume so.
Yeah.
What would you Jake? You have him in one of the 3rd and 20 leagues. What would I have to give you to get
him? Definitely at least a second, just because I think he's looked good, and like JT said, Derrick Henry is a ticking time bomb. He's been one for 3 years at this point, of just this running back that keeps just accumulating 300 touch seasons, and eventually it's going to catch up with him. And Tajay is the next in line, and he's looked good with the touches he's had so far.
Tajay is worth a little more than a late second in 2024.
Yeah, I would need like a real mid second for him.
Yeah, but I think when we're looking for those boom busts, like I feel like wide receiver, it's so much less likely to hit than running back, where it's like running back, you're getting the second guy on the depth chart already. That's like if someone goes down, you just get the first guy.
Yeah, that's also because typically you don't play really more than one running back significantly in a game, where you could have 3 receivers play significant roles in a game.
Yeah, so but my thing is where I contend with that though is like, am I trading for a player that I want to get 8 points per game from because he's the second wide receiver on a team that does, like, I don't know, Chase Claypool? Like if Darnell Mooney goes down, Chase Claypool will be the second in targets. Like you might get 8 points per game. You know, it doesn't. You don't get that huge increase like you would say Rashad White goes down and Sean Tucker is the guy. Like all of a sudden you're getting 12 points a game from 0 points a game. You know, I'd just rather go in that route. I think that's kind of Skull's not in chat, but he's.
So the one reason I disagree with you is that that's not always the case, and there are plenty of cases where there are receivers who, a lot of the time, it's switching team, but they after years, right, where you think that they're completely dead, come out of nowhere and are productive. And I think that happens more at the receiver position than the running back position, where the running back position, like if someone's going to come out of nowhere into relevancy, it's usually within the first 3 years of their career or that first team switch, right? But a lot of the times that first team switch, they had flashed as a backup, right, where they really become elite. Whereas the receivers, you could have someone who's like mid, and then all of a sudden year 5, year 6, they find a situation that works, and then boom, they're like a 15 points per game guy.
So who are you buying then for those prices? Who are you trying to get
for a third?
Mm-hmm.
Darnell Mooney is someone I think that's very interesting, just with the shit show that the Bears are in, and someone that at least has talent. When he eventually switches teams, could be someone that's interesting.
I do think that strategy of just buying into bad offenses, knowing that eventually the situation will get better, I think that's a solid play. Anyone else you're thinking of?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
If you don't, it's fine.
Well, because one that's coming to mind is Rondale Moore. I don't really know whether or not to cut bait with him, but my instant reaction is that's kind of light in a third, because you have to, like, listen, this is not a high success rate maneuver, but when at least, like in Josh Palmer's case, right, there's at least excuses, because I do think that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both like 25% target share type players on most offenses. And it just so happens that there is too many mouths to feed. When Eckler is healthy and playing, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, you have a decent tight end in Gerald Everett. Now you have Quentin Johnston as well. Josh Palmer, I don't think, is bad. So it's like, of course he's not going to be getting a 21% target share to put up the consistent numbers that he kind of needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the one thing that you have is that Jacoby Myers, I think, is a good example of someone that you would have wanted to buy into. Now, maybe he was a second, but I'm pretty sure for a while after that first season and during his first year, second year, he was in the third round ballpark, if I remember correctly. Right, like him and Gabe Davis, I remember were kind of like,
yeah, they're fluttering.
Like, yeah, that very late second, third round type territory. And he's someone right now, if you invested in Jacoby Myers for a third back then, that has been a massive move for you. Like, he's been a pretty darn productive receiver, very low key. And now this year is going pretty nuclear. Yeah, it's only 3 weeks, but he has looked pretty good.
Well, I'm just reading chat. Going back, if you have Derrick Henry, would you pay a second plus a Wandale type for Tajay?
It's a little expensive.
Yeah, it seems like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, in that kind of deal, can you at least get a third back or something?
Yeah, I would not pay that much. I feel like
you can't pay that much.
All right. Anyone else you guys want to talk about with flexes?
Doubt it. Not necessarily.
Okay. On to the rookie report.
No. Yeah, it's more fun.
All right. Well, let's talk about my guy Quentin Johnston, and I'm kind of gonna lump in JSN with him. Simply because I think if I have his Twitter up right here, actually, at Dynasty S Flex, so Dynasty Super Flex. His name's Todd Dash Trade for T on Twitter /X if you want to look him up. He did. I noticed him last year for the first time. He does this thing where he charts the rookie wide receivers and what they do during their first few games. And his contention or point or hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, is waiting half a year or waiting a full season to see how your rookie wide receiver is doing is too long. Everyone else has already made up their mind. He says you have to act quick. Like you have to know within the first few games if this guy's good or not, and just move off him or buy into him based on what they do. So he built a formula. It's a player gets a certain amount of points per target, per reception, and per yards. And what he does is he charts all of them, and they get they get points based on that formula. And the top 25 or the top 10, I forget how, going back to 2010, are Hollywood Brown, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, Drake London, AJ Green, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Sterling Shepard. Those are all who are in the top 10 of that formula. And the bottom 25, the only good players are Mike Williams and DJ Chark, I would say. But you have a lot of like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Michael Floyd, John Ross, Ruben Randall, Paul Richardson, players like that, right? And so where that leads to this year is if you're using that formula, JSN and Quentin Johnston are both in that rough range of, I think he said anything below 7.5 points for whatever his model is like the danger zone. Like you don't want to be in there. There's no one really good. His logic would have you missing out on AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, and Watson. No, I think the problem is sorry. I want to clarify. I believe it's only players drafted in the first 2 rounds. So Amon-Ra would be out of that instance.
So how much
AJ
does
Brown.
this penalize you? So this mainly penalizes you for playing and not doing anything more so
Correct.
than not playing.
Correct. If you don't touch the field, it's when you start playing on the field. Like it's your first 3 games playing.
So that's the issue I think with AJ Brown there is that he wasn't really seeing a lot of snaps early on. And I think he was actually relatively efficient on the few snaps that he did get.
Yeah, I don't even know if AJ Brown is in I'm going through Twitter pictures. I don't have the actual full data in front of me. But like Amon-Ra definitely wouldn't count because he was a day.
Yeah, he's a 4th round NFL
Yeah,
back.
he was a 4th round. Yeah. So with that though, like players like Sky Moore, you would have been out on last year, only a few weeks in, which that would have been a good thing because you probably still could have traded him for an early 2nd or a late 1st, even potentially. So I get it. There is merit to this, but I will say this is where we need to have some nuance and not put in all this faith into 2, now 3 weeks of data. JSN and Quentin Johnston are both behind, I would argue, some of the best receivers in terms of like their competition compared to any of these other wide receivers drafted since 2010 in the first 2 rounds, right? DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and I guess I'll throw in Josh Palmer too, are all substantially more competent wide receivers than what you typically see from a team who's drafting a wide receiver so early. Another thing I would say towards this is that someone like Quentin Johnston or someone like JSN, I'm okay holding on to them because their value isn't going to drop tremendously, right? You're going to, even if they have a terrible year, you're still going to be able to trade them for a mid-2nd round pick. Whereas right now, I mean, Quentin Johnston specifically, you're probably trading him for a late 1st or an early 2nd already at this point, just because of how much his value's already dropped, despite it only being 3 weeks. So I don't know. I have more points, but I kind of want you guys to digest it first and tell me your initial thoughts, so I'm not rambling this whole time.
Oh shit! Should I sell JSN?
No, I mean,
I should do.
Theoretically, according to his logic, you getting out now on JSN would make you happier more times than not.
Well, like
I'll put him on the trade block when you guys want him. I think it's a 3rd and 20 league.
hypothetically speaking,
wanna be
right?
happy.
So, what are you getting back for JSN at this point? Like, if you can get a mid first in this upcoming draft, I think you probably just do it. Because, like, if you're getting picks anywhere from like 6 to 10 of this year's draft, like, you're still going to get a very, very good player, and like that's probably where JSN would have ended up going in that class anyway. Because you're going to have the quarterbacks at the top, you're going to have Marvin Harrison at the top. There's always going to be running backs that sneak up the board. I don't know who it's going to be at this point, but still, I just think if you can get a mid first for JSN, it's worth considering. Same thing with Quentin Johnston. If you can get any first for Quentin Johnston, it's worth considering because he's a bum, and I said that from the beginning. So I just,
look. This is my issue with it. Right? Is you have Justin Jefferson, right? And actually, let me just respond to Stroud Rock real quick. I think it is mostly based on points per game, although touchdowns don't count. So if you catch a touchdown, it doesn't affect you anyway. Look, I'm not for or against it. I would definitely throw a lot more caution against it than buy into it. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, for example, right? Currently the best receiver in the league, if not one of the top 3, I think everyone would agree on. Like, definitely, obviously, he's Dynasty 1 wide receiver. He didn't play his first, like, he didn't start his first 2 weeks, and he had Adam Thielen, and I think BC Johnson was the next guy on that team. BC Johnson, who's, I don't even know if he's on a team right now, and he was a rookie of the year before Justin Jefferson. He was losing snaps out to those guys, right? And it took 2 weeks or in his 3rd week for him to start seeing him play. I just don't think when we're in a situation with teams like the Seahawks and like the Chargers, who are looking to be competitive early on, I don't think we should expect much from these players already. Like, I think I'm fine giving these guys leeway, especially now with Quentin Johnston, something breaking his way. JSN has Tyler Lockett, who is older and is probably more
still nasty though.
He is nasty. DK Metcalf was lucky to avoid injury last year because it looked like for a little bit he was going to be out for the season, and then turns out he was fine. There's going to be opportunity coming these guys' way, and even if they are bad, there's still going to be those flashpoints where you're able to sell. I mean, it was kind of the same thing with Sky Moore. Like, he was bad during his first 3 weeks, and you were able to probably trade him for that early second. I was able to get out of Sky Moore last week for a mid to late second, and he caught a long touchdown on like 3 targets that he had in that game. He hasn't done anything since. He had a whole season of doing nothing, and a whole second season or a whole training camp, and now start to the second season of doing nothing. And I was able to get out at almost the same price point. Like, people are always willing to get that eternal optimism and buy in at slightly lower prices, and I just think the holding and waiting to find out is fine in these instances.
Okay, so I shouldn't sell JSN.
I mean, look, if you want to sell them to me, I'm not even the biggest JSN guy, but if you want to trade them to me, I'm fine with that.
So all right, so we kind of touched on Quentin Johnston and JSN. So I want to touch on my guy Devon Achane.
Okay.
I mean, you are right. The Broncos defense, it looked like they kind of gave up. And I don't know. There's a whole lot of things you could say about the Broncos defense, and none of it's positive. Same time, he did go kind of crazy.
Everyone
pretty
did.
Good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone did.
No, that Craycraft guy didn't. I was thinking about starting him.
He got hurt. Didn't he get hurt?
Oh, did he? I don't know.
I thought he left the game.
Well, I guess that explains it.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of an anomaly. I feel like we talked about Achane already, though. Like, is there something else you want to add on him?
Well, okay. Well, what's the move? I mean, I've got Achane in a handful of leagues. I think Jake has him too. Are you just keeping? Because I liked Achane as a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, in the league I have him, I'm a contender, so I'm just gonna hold him and hope for the best. I kind of drafted him hoping he'd be my running back too, because that league I need a running back badly, and I might have just got one. So
I'm interested. I don't think we're going to have the updated data yet, but I want to see what Achane's going for because I have a feeling I probably would just want to move on from him if I think
He's
the
running back
prices are-
11 right now.
Yeah, I want to see if the prices are as crazy as I think.
The thing is, I think it would just be a random first right now, and that's the thing I
It
struggle with.
says
is
you could
that-
trade him straight up for Brock Purdy, Debo, Kyler, Calvin Ridley, Christian Watson.
I mean,
well,
you're not getting
outside
you're
of
not getting Kyler for Achane.
Yeah.
Who's the other one that you just said though?
Debo, Calvin Ridley,
okay.
Christian Watson.
Oh, Christian Watson. I mean, okay.
Drunk, I could. The problem is, I don't want to move off Achane for a single 24 first that doesn't have a chance at being top 5. Right? Like, and I don't think I'm getting that first for him. So, until I'm getting a higher price, what's the point of selling off a 200-yard game?
Yeah, but like, would you trade Achane for Jordan Addison?
Probably.
Yeah.
Would you trade him for Zay Flowers?
Probably.
No.
So that's
No. Yeah, I might.
we're nearing like the late first there.
I might.
I think Zay Flowers is more of a mid-first guy. But
I'm saying in the 2023 rookie draft, Zay Flowers was a late first.
Right.
And I think this rookie wide receiving class coming up in 2024 is also going to be pretty nice. On top of, you have at least 2 quarterbacks, maybe 3, who are going to be coming out next year that are going to push those guys down. Brock Bowers is probably going to push people down too.
Listen, Jadra, I like both of them. All right, you don't talk to me. I like them both. I've got more Zays than Addisons.
Yeah,
Addison's a guy I actually got none of, and I wish
I don't have any of them either. But I got a whole bunch of Zays to wipe my tears.
I have Zays too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. These are the kind of players that you are likely to be missing out on if you're holding Achane, which is like fine.
I don't think I can get any of those receivers.
Also, I think he wants to
try.
be. I think according to Schefter, he wants to be called Achane. I believe.
Achane. Okay.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Nah.
It's kind of like learning it was not Joe Herbert, it was Joe Hebert.
All right, so if that's enough Achane, we can move into the Texans and Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud, I think we can touch on quick. Yeah, he looks amazing. CJ Stroud, super good. Yada yada yada. His price is going up, like firmly second round, if not a higher startup pick, like early second round.
Yep.
So if you got CJ Stroud, looks great. I mean, in my opinion, I think all of these quarterbacks are looking pretty darn good right now. So
all of the rookie quarterbacks.
I just really like what the Texans are doing, though. The Texans have CJ Stroud out there, and they're like, hey, just sling it. Like.
Well, he also looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, the anticipation throws that he's making are really nice, and he's completely elevated that offense. But I want to get into the more interesting player from this offense, and that's Tank Dell. Because Tank Dell has now put together a couple of good weeks. It looks like the chemistry with him and CJ Stroud is there. I have him in literally half of my Dynasty leagues, and I don't really know what to do. Like, if I should sell or not. Is it worth selling?
Look, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I think he's worth a first-round pick.
Really?
I think the current Tank Dell, I wouldn't trade the first round pick for him just because I feel like it's always bad process.
Well, if you had him,
I do.
I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade him for less than a first.
Really, that's the last thing I expected, because I was thinking of mass offering him out for a second and a third.
I think I like Nico Collins. Nico Collins is someone I really liked. I think Tank Dell's kind of blowing him out of the water in the understats.
Nico's looked really good.
That's the thing. That's the thing. He's looked really good, and Tank Dell's been better. And that's
guess who has all of the Texans wide receivers?
I do. What scares me is that now I could see the future, and Nico Collins is the bait receiver that was like at the top of the leaderboards after 3 weeks. Like,
oh yeah, he is that guy. Yes.
I was
Actually,
so
if I
wrong
pull-
2 weeks ago on that. Nico Collins is going to be great.
I think. Do I still have it up here? Yeah, actually, where's Nico Collins through? I mean, it could be Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell is up here at number 11 right now.
That is true.
Nico Collins is 14 though.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
almost priced in that Tutu.
Oh yeah, Tutu Atwell is cheap. Yeah, but
nonetheless.
Tank Dell, he's wide receiver 7 currently. He's just been seeing a steady increase of targets too, or in points, because he went from 3.4 to 13.2 to 20.5 according to Fantasy Pros. I don't know how they do their calculations, but if it's PPR, half PPR, or what, but
Wow.
or standard.
The thing is that he looks like he's in line to just get a consistent amount of targets.
He's got great
Yeah.
chemistry with CJ Stroud. They were drafted together. That was their whole thing. It's kind of like the Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford Breakfast Club thing. That's what we got going on down in Houston. It's Tank
the
Dell and
anti-
CJ Stroud.
It's
They're
the
the dinner
anti
club.
whatever these other QBs
The dinner
do.
club.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It's so funny that though, because you have like Patrick Mahomes handpicked Sky Moore, and then you have like some of these other ones.
Oh, yeah,
and they just completely flop.
Well, to be fair, I'm not doing it because I don't know. I'm stuck in my priors or whatever. I wasn't a big fan of either CJ Stroud or Tank Dell coming out, but I think through 3 games they've kind of proved me wrong, and it's to the point of where I think that both Tank Dell and Puka, I think they're worth the price of admission. Now, if you're talking like this has potential to be a mid-first, like this has potential to be a top 8 pick or higher, that's where I'm like, okay, like let's pump the brakes. Like you're getting like an elite player there. But these two have, like, they're currently, as they've started the season and their careers, they have potential to push themselves into that elite category.
Do we have
I think
Tank
either
Dell
of
in
them are
our
going to do it?
orphan
I
league?
don't think so. I wish.
No.
Well, like what I'm saying, like we don't have a good second offer, but if you're that high on him, I'm surprised you're not offering a contender second and contender third for him, because I think you could get that deal done in a handful.
You
of
think
leagues.
so? This is my problem with both Puka and Tank. I tried to be early on Puka especially, and even when I was offering what I felt like was an overpay, instant rejected. So I don't.
Listen,
I don't
it's
know.
going to happen. That's just kind of trading, though.
We do have Tank Dell in the orphan league.
Oh, we do?
Okay.
Yeah, we
That's a little
do.
better.
We have very good players. It's just we don't have a whole
We don't have a lot of them.
yeah. And they're kind of like their value is very depressed right now. But
No, we're chilling.
yeah.
Yeah, in a few years when we got, Caleb Williams and Bryce Young together, that'll work.
Yo, light the wick, Luke L. Light the fucking wick. You see Dontavian Wicks out there?
Yeah, I do think he has Rock Bullerton potential.
So okay, I listen. I don't think I was that high on Tank Dell, but all this hype has got me fucking bought in even more than I already was.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you have to pay that late. Like, was Keep Trade Cut telling you 37.25? Oh no, that is a 2026 late first. I mean, but I'm just looking at all these players that are ranked around him. I think he's probably skyrocketed past them. But DJ Moore, Damian Pierce, Zach Charbonnet, and Terry McLaurin, I trade them all for Tank Dell.
I can't remember this many rookies ever blowing up this early at the same time. Not a good look for JSN and Quentin Johnston. I mean, the jury's definitely not out. I will say, I think the most surprising thing has just been the usage of the tight ends. The fact that they are literally top 12 producers right now. Because I think the receivers, it is a little early in the year, but generally speaking, if we want to clump in, let's just say the first half of the season, it's probably on par with some of the other classes of just early producers.
Yeah, I think the thing is we're seeing them playing earlier though.
Yeah, like this early in the season's a little interesting, but
we have that, like, we have 3 or 4 tight ends already involved, like you're saying. Yes, Jake?
Well, I just think we've seen a lot of, day 2 and day 3 NFL picks be relevant already, which is, something that I don't think you see generic, just typically, just because those guys are maybe more developmental or had off the field issues or whatever the reason is that they fell in the draft for whatever reasons. But, we're seeing guys like Tank Dell, who was a 3rd-round pick. We're seeing guys like, the tight ends. I know obviously Laporta was a 2nd, but Musgrave was a 3rd. Like there's a lot of players later in the draft that are becoming relevant more quickly, and I think that's why when we see guys like Quentin Johnston who went in the 1st, and you expect him to do more than and you see other rookies, like Roshan Johnson's played really well, another 4th-round pick. Like you just it almost puts pressure on Quentin Johnston to perform from a dynasty perspective, just because you're seeing all these other rookies do what they're doing.
I will say I do agree in terms of the day 3/late day 2 guys, because this guy that we're about to get into as well, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed is another one, producing very early and getting a ton of snaps. And then you even seen it with a guy like Demario Douglas, just seeing a healthy amount of snaps as a 6th-round pick as well. I mean, there's been a ton of value thus far in rookie drafts late in your draft. But I mean, we can get into Marvin Mims now if you guys wanted to.
I guess, do you guys think Tank Dell's an every week start now? Like, what is he, like, what do you do with him? Because, like, in a lot of leagues, I have him on my taxi, right? He was one of these guys that I didn't think.
I would promote him because I think that he's in the low mid-end wide receiver too, right? Like, starting him versus DJ Moore would be an interesting conversation. I think I might still give the slight edge to DJ Moore, but you're almost playing matchups at that point.
Do you start him?
Actually,
or do you start Nico Collins?
I'll go Tank Dell over DJ Moore. I even think.
I'm going Tank Dell.
What about like his own teammate Nico Collins? You start him over there?
I think they're about the same. I almost agree with JT, where you just kind of expect Tank Dell's usage to increase more so than Nico Collins.
They do have a rough stretch though coming up, where if you are doing that matchup game, like they're going to be this week's Pittsburgh, and then they have Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and then it starts to ease up near the end of the season. But I mean, a lot of divisional tough defenses.
I hope it's rough for CJ Stroud this week. No Tank Dell.
TJ Watt.
But yeah, Marvin Mims, though, because this is a guy that hasn't seen a whole lot of usage at all. But if you look at almost every positive play from the Broncos this year that wasn't defense, and there hasn't been many of them, it's been Marvin Mims, both special teams and offensively. You have to. Russell Wilson just said he has no ceiling, which I have to assume it's the good version of that. And
he's unlimited. He's welcome to him to the unlimited club.
I mean, you got to be pretty happy if you have Marvin Mims right now. Is he breaching the 1st round ish?
Not yet. For me,
because his problem is we don't, like, he's very efficient, but we don't have the actual production yet, or in terms of like usage yet. I was trying to pull up some stats about Marvin Mims, but I don't think
I'm starting to get bought in because
I think he looks good a little bit.
I hate buying high, but I want to know what can I get Marvin Mims at, because I'm curious.
He's cheaper than Tank Dell
by a little, barely.
Really?
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I would much rather, which is crazy because I feel like I was the Marvin Mims guy. I feel much more confident right now paying for Tank Dell than I do Marvin Mims, and they are really only like 100 points off on keep trade cut.
I mean, that's situational. I just think the Broncos are a mess. I mean, they brought in Sean Payton and they're 0-3. Russ looks washed, and their team is just weird right now. When the Texans are starting to turn it around, right? They seem to have found their quarterback. Their receivers are playing better than anyone expected. I know they're not winning many games right now, but still, I think they're headed in the right direction, at least.
Well, CJ Stroud is just kind of him. He's playing phenomenally.
Here's another guy who I think we talked about a couple weeks ago because he caught a touchdown. And it's not ranked too far behind. What do you guys think about? I always screw up his first name. Rashi Rice on the Chiefs.
Rashi Rice is someone that I might be looking to try and sell right now, but it's tough.
He's one I don't really have him, but I don't know what I'd do with him.
Trade him. Never draft him. You shouldn't have drafted him.
Second and a third for him, or can you move into Marvin Mims or Tank Dell by giving up a third or something?
I think you could do that. Is really what I don't think Tank Dell, but I think you could probably move into Marvin Mims at this point.
Broncos will easily bounce back big. I mean, should I bet on them this week? What do you think? You really think
Broncos go 4-13?
Because every time I ever touch the Broncos, I lose money. So I've banished myself from betting on them. But now I'm back.
They're on your no bet list,
confident.
Frank.
I will never bet forward against the Broncos for like the next 2 years.
I have some weird no bet. I don't know why.
Except for this week because of that comment. This is an exception to the rules. It's like a sign.
The thing about
what is the price it takes though to acquire Marvin Mims or Tank Dell? What's the price?
It's going to be an early second.
Yeah.
An early second.
And Rice is probably a mid to late second, I would say.
Late second.
Keep
Trade Cuts telling me mid.
It just depends on the amount of hype. There might be enough hype where you can, if you're a contender, you can, or you're getting picks from a contender, you get a second and a third. But I would really like to do that with Rashi Rice.
The thing about him, I'm not buying into him, but 53% target share. 53% snap rate, 18% target share in a game where Travis Kelce was there. It was a blowout game against the Bears, but like he's out targeting Sky Moore, who's the perceived wide receiver one, or I guess Kadarius Toney, depends. Although Kadarius Toney only played 5% of the snaps.
Tony got banished.
My problem is, JT, I don't think any of these receivers are going to pan out.
Correct.
And I want to sell all of them at cost because in my eyes, listen, they one of them could pan out. But I think that they're all number twos and that they're going to bring in other receivers next year from whatever avenue.
And I agree. And so that's why I'm not doing it. But is there credibility to the theory that like you could pick up Rice right now for that mid to late second, just have a bank on a stretch of 1 to 2 games where he's just the leading guy in targets, and maybe he has one good game where he hits that like 80 yards or something, he's putting up 10-12 points, or maybe he gets a touchdown.
Yes,
and you sell him for higher.
Yes, there is. Okay. Because and that's actually an excellent point, because what you would want to do, and this is probably the better play, is just wait and then try to do what we did with Darnell Mooney in our Orphan League, where you do Rashi Rice in a second for a first-round pick to a contender, try to push it out a year or two, and just let that marinate, and then you've cashed out.
First.
Because I think that Rashi Rice's upside is basically Gabriel Davis. Maybe a little bit better.
He's the next Jag on the Chiefs, okay? That's what he is.
I think all they got is 800, 900-yard guy.
They're all Jags. I don't care. They're all the same. They're all they're all MVS. Oh, I'm gonna stretch the field. They're all Kadarius Toney. Oh, I'm shifty. Oh, get out of here. They all stink, okay? They're all Jags, and don't touch them. Everyone loves to touch the Chiefs offense because it's Patrick Mahomes. I get it. But no one not named Travis Kelce on that team is any fucking good, okay? Sell them.
No one's upside is Gabe Davis. You're right, though. Yeah, you're right about the rookie production, though, thing. I was totally wrong about that. Now, the more I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Oh, no one's upside is Gabe Davis. That's hilarious.
I've been enjoying this episode, although we don't really have anything else.
Yeah, that's basically all we got on the docket. I mean, I don't know. The price early second for Marvin Mims does seem a little steep. I was hoping to get like second and third. See if I can pick him up for that.
I mean, you still might be able to, because it's not like. Let me pull up his.
It's been 3 weeks. Like someone probably drafted him in the mid to late second, and now if you're gonna give him a second and a third, they might take it.
Or can you? What do you think the difference between someone like him and DJ Moore is?
I mean, DJ Moore, I think
they're ranked like about the same. It says on Keep Track.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh. I mean, because to me, DJ Moore is still firmly a true early second.
Well, I think that to a lot of people, DJ Moore, there might be a gap still between DJ Moore and Marvin Mims. That, I mean, is it because I think that DJ Moore right now is firmly on that Terry McLaurin path where he's going to be.
Everyone knows he's good,
paradox. Yeah, if you have him, he's fine to start. He's just a wide receiver 2 right now. And for the foreseeable future, until he either gets moved to a new offense, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen, and the Bears don't seem like they've got it figured out in the slightest.
Who's their GM now? Was it Pauls or whatever his name is? He's terrible, man.
I don't think he's that bad. I think he got baited with the Claypool move because they bought in too much to the analytics and didn't realize that Claypool was out partying literally every weekend.
Did you see they had like these scores on players or whatever, and it was like it wasn't like most athletic, but it was like they had their own algorithm and system.
Yeah, I did see that.
And then, the leading guys on that list were like Justin Fields, Chase Claypool, and Velus Jones. It's like, well,
oh god,
if that's what your process is, maybe let's come up with a different process, because you should not be trading what's essentially a first for Justin Fields and drafting Velus Jones where you drafted him.
I traded Burrow and Amari Cooper for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dak, and a second.
The quarterbacks I both feel like are overrated.
Yeah, but I'd rather I'd rather Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd rather Burrow. I think Dak's fine, and actually, I would say at this point, Dak might be a little underrated simply because of how much people.
He has not been good, dude. He's not been good.
Oh, are you saying my guy Trey Lance has a chance?
No, but he's not been good.
No, he hasn't.
That's pretty even. The thing is that I might tend to agree. I might just want Burrow. That's the issue.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the interesting,
Burrow's the most valuable piece in that trade.
The interesting thing though is that I think that both Dak and Amon-Ra hold their value pretty well, whereas Amari Cooper is probably just going to enter this annoying you have to hold, and if you are a rebuilder with Amari Cooper, it's a nightmare scenario because it's like a D-hop, right? He's going to be productive, but no one wants to pay what he's actually worth.
True. I'm struggling with this because I think
Burrow's selling me. Burrow's throwing, basically.
Out of these, I think Amon-Ra is my favorite player.
Burrow's throwing, dude.
Well, yeah, if Amon-Ra continues to be dominant, that's it's just I freaking love Amari Cooper. I just think he's so good.
I mean, he's one of the best route runners in the league. So
where do you think that second's going to be?
It's a big question.
He is throwing.
As in Burrow. Burrow's throwing.
Oh. I just assume like random late-ish second, right? Mid to late. I do think it's a fine deal. 8 points in a 6-point passing touchdown league is unacceptable.
That is rough.
I just think he's going to figure it out, man. I think he's going to figure it out. He's so good, and he's so young. Just that plug-and-play quarterback. You just you have him, and you don't even have to think about it. In a 6-point passing touchdown league, it's just so nice.
Yeah, you have to hold him in a 6-point league.
Having Mahomes in a 6-point passing touchdown league is literally like the greatest thing. I just chill.
Thanks.
Him and Justin Jefferson. I'm just like, okay, I'll see y'all. Like,
yeah. Nice.
I don't have to think about my lineup. I just play all the good ones.
Good call. Play the good ones.
All right.
Why don't we start off with that for our advice? Play the
If
good players.
AOC sees the field, I'm thinking about it. I hope he does. I'm an AOC truther.
Jimmy G blowing games.
Looking to tear down from Lamb, who's the wide receiver to get with a first for Lamb in 14-team Superflex. I need assets. That's intriguing. So you want something plus a receiver plus a first for CD Lamb.
Yeah, he wants to trade away CD Lamb for a player in a first. Brandon Ayuk.
Not
Do you
sure
think that gets done?
I think Ayuk suspended too much.
Where is Brandon Ayuk?
So the problem is that if you're talking about the 3rd and 20, are you looking to push into contender or are you looking for value? Because
Christian
I think
Watson.
This move is much easier if you're a contender because I could just start rattling them off. I mean, Deebo Samuel, Calvin Ridley, even like Amari Cooper, and you get a little bit more.
Michael Pittman?
Pittman's interesting.
I guess.
Also depends on where you think that first is going to be.
True. If that's a Caleb Williams consideration, then definitely.
I'm not close.
Dude, see, I think you're wrong, dude. I think your team is stronger than you give it credit for.
This could be a different league.
Is it the 2nd, 3rd, and 20 league?
Yeah, my team's elite in that league.
Yeah, 2nd, 3rd, and 20 league. Yeah, I think your team is stronger than you think.
Let me click on.
I don't know. I gave Peter the R the work in week 1. Not really. He just scored 73.
He's stashing them. He's got them stashed. Like if you had any, and this is adding a lot, but bear with me. If you had an elite QB, then I think that your team is a contender. Like it's not easy to get, but let's just imagine that you magically drafted Jalen Hurts.
Magically. Yeah. I mean, he has no quarterbacks. Your taxi is disgusting, by the way, but
I'm looking at his team now. Oh my god, he's got Drake London and Garrett Wilson on his taxi.
I know. He's just casually stashing.
Oh my god, that's an entire roster.
Yeah, your taxi is better than your starting lineup.
Yeah, that still counts towards your max points, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but you get free roster spots though. He said he got it from one of our ideas in a previous podcast. I guess the theory is
we do.
That, you would just, like, because you're never cutting those guys. If you're rebuilding, you just get 5 more roster spots to play around with if you're just going for pure value.
Yeah.
He's beating us at our own game. Although I think I'm pretty low in the max points for.
I'm pretty low in the max points.
Yeah, I know.
You're actually throwing. My team.
Oh no, I'm in last. Hell yeah, we're still going. We're still going, baby.
You guys are sad.
I've got like a 30-point lead.
I've almost doubled your max points, JT.
That's fine. Right. I got Bijan last year. I'm getting Caleb this year. We're stalking.
Hey, when you have Mahomes and Tua right now, I'm feeling pretty good. So.
I mean, Tank Dell in a first for Lamb. I don't know.
Do I have Tank Dell in this league too? No. In this one, I only have Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie, the other.
Yeah, the backups.
Right. I forgot that. I shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right. That's the issue. Wilson would have been so nice with Rodgers, but rip. I think London bounces back though a little bit. I think he finishes with about.
I think Taylor Heineke steps on the field. I think this team looks different. I think they're actually they actually throw the ball.
I don't know why they're continuing to start Ritter.
Well, they're winning games. I mean, other than last week, they were winning games, so it's
They give you Brock Purdy.
Still,
Give me a first, and he's all yours.
impossible to get
Any
QBs
year?
in that league. Yeah, I'm hoarding a decent amount of them because I have Dak, Deshaun, Tannehill, Levis. Maybe I'm not hoarding that many.
Yeah, 14 teams, man, adds a real wrench in these QB leagues. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. PVR will I kind of want to look into that team a little bit. Maybe we could look into it next episode or something. But yeah, thank you guys in chat for showing up. Really appreciate it. PVR, if you want Brock Purdy, hit my inbox or give me something. Give me a juicer. And yeah, peace out. See y'all next Tuesday.